Hello, everyone. Today, we have the absolute pleasure and privilege of being joined by David Edward, who is the founder and growth specialist at Strategic Initiatives Group. David, thank you so much for joining us today on the podcast episode. Really excited to have you on. How are you doing today?
Pleasure to join you, Harris. Yeah, doing great. Doing great over here. Thank you.
I'm glad to hear. I'm glad to hear. So, David, let's have an amazing conversation. But I think with any conversation, the best place to start is the very beginning. So, what does your journey really look like in terms of your career, kind of maybe getting into the business? What does that process look like? And maybe if you can walk us through your journey of getting into the position you're in today, maybe some ups, some downs, and hopefully we can really get a better insight of your journey.
Start at the end. Strategic Initiatives Groups, we're a growth specialist, a consultancy. And
Yep.
what we do is help clients through the disruption in their business, in
Yep.
their markets, inside their company, really,
Yep.
and get them to accelerated and sustainable growth. That's the end. But where my journey started was way back in the beginning when I joined multinational agencies. So my career started in agency management, planning, account management, and agency leadership. And I was really fortunate to be involved in a number of successful global strategies for these brands. And what that taught me a lot about was human needs and behaviors and these universal needs that we all share. And then how that's informed by very regional or sometimes local needs, behaviors, beliefs, values, culture, those
Yep.
sort of things. It was that combination that really kind of sparked my lifelong learning journey around human needs and behaviors. Because I truly believe then and still to today that that's the key to growth. That's the key to success in a business is understanding human needs and behaviors. So that's where it started. Two things happened. One was that I found that companies were increasingly unprepared for this shift to consumer power. So this was back in the day of the kind of the emergence of data and that shift in power back to the consumer. So, it was before that it was all one-way marketing, if you will.
Yep.
So because they were unprepared, I actually left the agency business and I started Strategic Initiatives Group so I could help clients navigate this shift in power and help them understand the needs of both their consumers, their employees, and the company. And
Got
it's
it.
it's this triumvirate of needs that's the key, right? It's figuring out how all three things kind of fit together.
Absolutely. Finding that balance.
That's right. That's right. So that was the first thing. The second thing that happened, not long after, frankly, is markets were becoming increasingly disruptive. Change was accelerating.
Yep.
And while that was happening, I found that leaders, owners, employees, they were burning out.
Yep.
And the reason was we're chasing growth, right? We're
Mm.
chasing after that change, chasing after that disruption, trying to make sense of it. And it was burning out people left and right. And as I was sort of looking at this, I thought there has to be a better way. We can't keep going this way. So there has to be a more sustainable way to grow a business. So I started thinking about, well, what's that going to look like? Quite by coincidence, I guess. I sort of look at back at it now as kind of this happy coincidence, but I was researching and planning for a summer trip to Italy. I was doing some writing and
Yep.
researching and planning is what I do.
Yep.
Well, you can't do that in Italy without bumping into the Renaissance. And I was fascinated by this period of human history. I mean, never before have we had growth, prosperity, creativity, innovation, thought, expansion of thought. Never before has that happened. Like even today, like we get some of that. We might get two or three of those elements, but we've never had all of those elements combined. So I was fascinated by that. And that's when I had my eureka moment. And it was literally in the middle of the night when I woke up and I still have this piece of paper because I had to write it down. The first question was, what started the Renaissance? What were
Okay.
those factors that started it? The second question is, what would it take to start another one?
Wow.
That was the eureka moment, and that's what the shift in my business was to how do we ignite this next business
Mm.
renaissance? I think since probably the early thousands, we've been living and working in what I would call a modern Middle Ages. And I won't go into that. That's a whole other story. I think there's this need for this fundamental shift in how we operate our businesses to be truly successful, particularly in this disruptive age. And that's really my mission and my purpose now is to guide clients through this disruption and at the same time ignite the first ever business renaissance. First inside their business, and then let's scale it. Let's take this global and actually lead the way to do business differently.
That's very
Yeah.
powerful, David. That's very powerful. And I guess in your journey, what would you say were probably the toughest parts of the journey, right? I know there's ups and there's downs, but what part of that journey are you really grateful that you went through, right, to lead you up to that point where you had that eureka? And, what are you, I guess, most proud of that you went through that challenge that kind of allowed you to kind of level up and face those even bigger, challenges
Yeah.
on that next level? What would you say to that?
Yeah. I think it was this constant managing and mitigation of disruption and change. I was equally guilty of that. And I'll explain why. We have been trained in business as business leaders in a very traditional sense. And that traditional sense and the models that we use to manage our businesses were built in the days of stable, steady growth, predictable returns. Well, I don't know of anybody who believes those days are coming back. But what I found was, and really what I was coaching and consulting on is we're using these same models and they were becoming less and less effective. So the moment of the shift for me was, wait a minute, what are we doing trying to manage or mitigate this change and disruption with old models? We need a new way. We need a new model, one that actually transforms this disruption into fuel for growth
Got it. Got it.
because we can't beat it. So we might as well figure out a way to use this energy to help us grow our business and better serve our customers and clients.
Absolutely.
So that to me was that,
Defining moment. No, interesting.
yeah,
Interesting. Yeah.
defining, yeah.
So I guess now, if you look at the market currently, market trends, shifts that are happening, patterns that you're seeing, what would you say to that? What is the market trends, shifts that you're currently seeing within business and across different industries, right? How do you think they're going to pan out in the next few months and years to come? And if you were to give somebody advice on how to navigate these constant changes that keep coming out, right? There's this thing coming out, then this, and now we need to do this a certain way. How would you advise somebody to navigate these constant changes without going crazy?
That's the key. Yeah, I guess the two things that I see that are going to be really important in the near term and certainly in the future. I mean, AI, we're all talking about AI. I've been writing about AI since, well, close to 10 years now. And frankly, my opinion on AI has changed dramatically.
Okay.
There's some well-founded fear, I think, around it and how it's being used.
Yep.
But I honestly believe now, the more I see it, the more we were able to see it for what it is or see it for its potential. I think AI has the potential to actually elevate our humanity. If we continue to treat it as a tool and as a resource to fuel our own ambitions and our potential. It's when we let that genie out of the bottle and let it completely run our businesses and we become the background. That's when I think AI is going to become a problem. But I think if we use it properly, and some companies are getting it right now, others aren't, and a lot of us are still just kind of struggling along, trying to figure that out. But I think AI is going to be an important tool for reasons other than the ones that we're talking about now
Absolutely.
in terms
Absolutely.
of access to data. Thing that I'm seeing that's really interesting is the decline of loyalty.
Okay.
And yeah, and this is happening, I think, because of market fragmentation and more disruption and more change. I mean, we're all kind of concerned about what's going to happen next in our own lives and our own careers. And I think to a certain degree that's impacting loyalty as well. And what I have seen over the last several years, and if borrow a phrase from Iggy Pop for a moment, I think loyalty has become a little bit like trying to hypnotize a chicken,
Yeah.
right? it's becoming increasingly impossible. And I don't think this reliance on points cards and loyalty programs, right, which
Mm,
has become very, very transactional. We've
yep,
kind of lost sight of what we're really trying to do here. So instead, what I'm seeing and what I'm talking about with my clients is the importance of relevance.
got it.
That to me, it's relevance is more real time. It is an ongoing. It's not a I will give you loyalty in return for this. This is much more of a collaborative function between the brand, the company, and the consumer.
Got it.
I think relevance and for companies to stay relevant as we become more and more disruptive, that is going to be, I think, one of the keys to success. So
Amazing.
those are the two big shifts that I see happening.
Amazing. Very well said. Now, if we talk business side of things, right, I think it would be really good to talk about the business, some exciting projects, perhaps, in the pipeline. But what are some areas of the business that you're most proud of, right? They're going from strength to strength, and you're really proud. It could be from marketing, sales, operations, even working with clients and the team you have, perhaps. And what are some areas of the business that you're perhaps having the most challenges in, and maybe some hurdles that you're looking to overcome? And what would you say? And what advice perhaps would you give to somebody who's maybe in a similar position?
Some of the things that I'm most proud of is working with clients who have the courage really to make that shift. I mean, so many companies will say, "Well, of course we're human centric," but selling to people doesn't make you a human centric company. But where we've had success and the things that I'm so proud of is when organizations actually begin to look at their employee base and start to look at them as talent and look at their potential and less of a resource and more as a kind of an energy field that can
Yeah,
help lift their customers as well as the organization. I think it's this more human centric leader that I'm most proud of. And if I've played any part in helping them kind of unleash that sense of humanity in their business, that to me is a huge success and a big win.
amazing. And then I guess on the flip side, what are some areas that you're perhaps looking to kind of overcome? Maybe some challenges or some roadblocks on your journey to kind of growing the business and scaling. What would you put to that? And then what advice would you give to somebody who might be in a similar position?
Yeah, I think I'll come to the advice second. I think the biggest challenge we're going to face, particularly for companies who are just beginning to scale, is to not chase it. The best way I can describe it is the companies that aren't going to be successful and who are going to kind of level out in terms of their growth. These are the ones that are reacting to the latest disruption and the change. The ones who are going to be successful are the ones who actually respond to the needs and behaviors that are emerging from the change.
Got it. Got it.
Right. So if you think back to the pandemic
Yep.
and the shift in our needs for security and safety, well-being,
Absolutely.
and it's the companies who responded to that and not to we have a lockdown.
Very well said.
Right? We can't get boats on the water. We can't get product here. It's the companies who are able to make that shift to, well, what's happening now?
Absolutely. And I think it's a great example of, you know, the gold rush, right? Everyone was rushing to find the gold and make money that way and become, successful, when actually it was the people who were maybe selling shovels for the people who were trying to dig the gold that actually
That's right.
did really, really well, right? So I think you can apply that and you've hit the nail on the head. We're actually, rather than following the trend and going along with the sort of, how things are going, actually take a step back a little bit and see, okay, the trend's going here, but where can I come in that I can sort of benefit from as a byproduct of the trend, not necessarily
That's
the
right.
trend itself? Is that something you'd agree with?
Yes, absolutely. This is the separation of noise and signal.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
don't follow the noise. Focus on that signal. Understand what that's saying to you.
Absolutely. Very well
And
said.
then it's how do you serve it?
Absolutely.
How do you best serve? And to me, that's the goal. So for those company leaders who are at that stage of how do I get to that next level of growth? Think about how you can best serve those customers.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
this is the insight that I've gained. And this goes all the way back to human behavior again, and that is that you can't hold people in a present that they're trying to get out of. It's our nature to be better. It is that the human struggle is innate in all of us, right? We're here for a reason. We want to make our world a better place. We want to leave a mark on the world. So all of your customers, all of your clients, everybody is here to kind of serve that purpose. So how do organizations do that? If you want to grow, figure out what that future looks like, and don't try to hold them in a present with, I'm going to give you a better price or I'm going to give you more volume, when what they're looking for is that path to the better future. Figure that out, serve that need, and you can't help but be successful.
Very well said, David. Very well said. Now, I guess if we look towards the future, what does the next 6 to 12 months look like for yourself and for the business? Is this a metric-based goals that you're looking to achieve? Is it just growing but in a very sustainable and organic way? Or is it just impact-based? Do you want to just maybe leave a very big impact on the industry, on the people you work with, and maybe even beyond? If we're looking at maybe the next 10, maybe 20 years, what do you want to feel as though you've accomplished that's going to kind of you're sitting in your rocking chair on the beach having a nice drink. What do you want to look back on and feel, I'm very happy and satisfied that we did that?
This will be a little bit of practice what you preach again, but certainly sustainable growth. So it's not chasing growth. This is going to be sustainable and meaningful growth for our company. That would be number one. Certainly impact. I am at that stage where impact is very important to me, but it's not my own personal impact. I want to see the clients that I'm serving deliver that impact for themselves, for their organizations, and certainly for their customers. And this is the renaissance that I'm talking about, this first ever business renaissance. That is my real purpose and my passion now, and would be my goal to work with those clients that see that too, and have this belief that yes, we can be better, we want to do better, and that's the impact that we can all leave.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Very well
That
said.
that I think is a scalable proposition.
Absolutely. To wrap up on, what is the biggest piece of advice you've ever received from maybe a mentor, a business partner, a colleague, family even? What is the biggest piece of advice you've ever received or the hardest lesson you've had to learn in your journey of entrepreneurship that you're really grateful that you learned that? And if somebody's listening in right now and they really take it in and resonate, it could change the trajectory of their career and their business. What would you say to that?
Yeah, I think the best piece of advice that I ever had was, lean into your humanity.
Okay.
Very early on in my journey, through the Renaissance, and I became very, very, kind of passionate about it. And this was, recognized by a client, and it said, "You've gotta use that, like, lean into the humanity that you have. It's your curiosity." And this too would be the advice that I give to clients and would give to all of your listeners as they're looking to scale their own businesses. But, kind of lean into that sense of humanity or curiosity, be more empathetic with employees and with customers. Question and challenge what's going on around you and the models you're using, but do that respectfully so that there is dialogue and discussion around that. And also follow your nature, right? That follow your nature to be better. Because that's going to lead you to more innovation, more creativity, more ideas to better serve both your employees and your customers as well.
David, very well said. And with that, thank you so much. Thank you so much for your time today on the podcast episode. I've really enjoyed myself and felt we've had an amazing conversation. I hope you felt an amazing conversation. I'm sure everybody listening has found a lot of value. So massive thank you to you, David. Is there any final comments or closing thoughts you might have for anybody listening? Perhaps some team members or people in your network that might want to reach out?
No, I can't think of a thing actually. I think,
No worries.
I think we've had a great discussion. Yeah,
Amazing.
it's
Amazing.
been
Well,
a real pleasure joining you.
no problem at all. My pleasure, David, to have you on. Thank you so much for your time today. And thanks to everyone who's tuned in today. We'll catch you next time.